friends, we continue to monitor the events on the front lines of Ukraine and Russia as well as in news. Currently, there is ongoing movement along the front line with both Russian forces and the Ukrainian armed forces advancing. But before we begin, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel and don't forget to click the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Let's start right away with the Bakhmut direction. First fighting continues there. Today it is reported that the Russians are deploying significant reserves and attempting to fortify themselves to the maximum extent in the Bakhmut area. They aim to create a new defensive line so that it becomes harder for the Ukrainian armed forces to break through after clearing Klishchivka. We can already see that the Ukrainian armed forces have advanced in the Kurdyumivka and Klishchivka areas, and they only need to push the Russians out of Andriivka to open the road to Ardadivka. The Russians are trying to create as many fortifications as possible in this area. Unfortunately, they have realized that for now the Ukrainian armed forces cannot seriously penetrate their defense without aviation. Therefore, today they are making every effort to establish a powerful defensive line. Additionally, Russian attacks in the Verkhivka area continue today. They are trying to regain lost positions, but the front line has remained unchanged over the past 24 hours. In the Avdiivka direction, the Russians are attempting to advance their offensive as attacks are taking place almost along the entire front line. In Avdiivka itself, battles are raging for the outskirts of the city, and the Russians are intensively shelling Avdiivka to destroy the Ukrainian positions. There are also attacks in the Keramic area, which had been relatively calm for a long time, but now the occupiers have become active again and are trying to move closer to the populated area. Further south in the Nevelske and Marinka areas, there are ongoing battles, but the Ukrainian armed forces are doing everything possible to hold their defense, and the front line remains unchanged there. In the Vuhledar direction, according to unofficial information, the Ukrainian armed forces are advancing in the Kremenchuk area. In order to prevent the Ukrainian forces from breaking through and gaining another foothold in the Russian defense, the Russians are withdrawing units from the second defensive line and deploying them to support the first line. The Russians are also attempting to regain positions in the Urozhaine area and are moving towards Blagodatne. But the Ukrainian armed forces are breaking up their advancing groups and there have been no changes in the front line. In the Zaporizhia direction, according to unofficial information, tactical battles are taking place in the direction of Kopany. Small groups are advancing to weaken the defense for possible breakthroughs. The geolocation map clearly shows that the Ukrainian armed forces are preparing the territory for advancement, as many enemy bases and depots are being destroyed. The Ukrainian armed forces have also released a video showing a large stockpile of captured ammunition in the Pyatikhatki area. Unfortunately, I cannot share this video due to YouTube rules. It is worth mentioning again the cluster artillery shells that the US will send to Ukraine. Their flight range is approximately 29 kilometers. Why is Russia so afraid of these shells? If fired from a distance of 7-10 kilometers from the current front line, Ukraine can reach 100% of the first line of Russian trench fortifications and 78% of the second line. Meanwhile, Poland has reportedly handed over about a dozen Mi-24 helicopters of Soviet design to Ukraine. According to the Wall Street Journal, this transfer of helicopters from Poland to Ukraine wasn't publicly announced. At the same time, as stated in the publication, Ukraine's air fleet remains small compared to Russia's, and Ukrainian aircraft have less advanced targeting and defense systems. Ukraine limits the use of aviation to avoid losing aircraft, as emphasized in the article. In the Kherson direction, the Ukrainian armed forces are preparing to advance further, and we see daily shelling by the Russians, targeting both the right and left banks to push out the Ukrainian forces. Looking at the NASA map, which shows fires and fire activity, we can see that the Ukrainian armed forces have been highly active in recent days on the left bank, in the Kinbrunspit area and near Burkut, which is 26 kilometers from the front line. The Russians have likely established their bases here, and their destruction is actively underway. Moreover, near the Antoniv Bridge, in the Russian positions, there are likely strikes being carried out against Ukrainian positions. The counter-battery fight continues overall. Meanwhile, in the air near the dried-up Kakhovka reservoir, interesting discoveries are being made, and it appears to be a complete desert with not even a single puddle. In the Lugansk direction, the activity continues. In the areas of Kremina and Siversk, the Russians continue to advance near Bilogorivka in Donetsk region, attempting to squeeze the Ukrainian armed forces from a small section of the front line where they are surrounded from two sides by the Russians. However, there is a slight advantage because they are on higher ground, making it difficult for the Russians to execute their plans. In the Svatovo area, the Russians have managed to advance, and attacks on Novoselivka and Stelmachivka are ongoing today, but they haven't achieved any success over the past 24 hours, and the front line remains unchanged. In the Dvorichna area, shelling continues, but no offensive actions have been recorded as before. Meanwhile, Germany is afraid of a war with Russia and wants to delay Ukraine's NATO membership. A source within the alliance revealed that Berlin will use this week's NATO summit in Vilnius to urge others to focus on security guarantees rather than membership proposal to help Ukraine defend itself without joining. According to Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty, if any NATO member state is the victim of an armed attack, all other members consider this act of violence as an attack against all of them and take measures deemed necessary to assist the attacked country. And that's all for now. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye!